On this episode of The What Life, we are going to take you through some of the barbell exercises that I've been using to develop my strength on the bike. My problem is that I love to turn the legs over nice and quickly. I often find that when I'm racing that my cadence is up over 100 RPM and I don't have the leg strength that it takes to crank out some good wattage at maybe 85 RPM. Obviously, there are things I can do on the bike to improve that, but what I've actually been trying to do is also factor in a bit of strength work to help so that when I want to put in that extra power at a lower cadence and just some of the strength, give me some more variability in my cycling, I'm able to do it. This is not the kind of content you're going to find on GCN. I don't think they've ever seen a barbell. So we're going to take you through 3 exercises that I've been using to develop a bit more leg strength that involve using a barbell. I basically only do 2 types of strength workouts. The first is a kettlebell that I will link up here. The second is obviously a barbell workout. So to start off with, just go through a nice, easy, normal warm-up routine. Something like squats, feet just wider than shoulder width apart, turn the toes out just slightly. Just work on that body movement, no weight, don't worry about the weight just yet. Drive nice and low, chest stays nice and high, sink through the heels, bum comes down, separate the knees. And that's the key feature, is that knee separation, because we're going to be working the adductors, a muscle that's very important once we dive on the bike. The whole game, or the whole idea here, is that when we're on the bike, we create a lot of knee stability, we create a lot of ITB strength, and we create that glute strength that includes the glute med. Separating the knee is that, and just to be clear, that glute med is the muscle that runs on the outside of your bum that keeps that knee nice and strong and stable. So separate the feet just wider than shoulder width apart, sink down, separate the knees on the way down, and then drive back up to standing. Again, I'm not the best visual demonstrator of these exercises. I have a tight lower back, but still, it's a good way to warm up. And if I'd done a few more, you'd probably get a better idea. Do 15 to 20 of these, it's a nice easy warm up. After that, go into a nice reverse lunge. So from a standing position, just drop that back leg back, take a nice big step, sink through the heel of that front foot, come back up to standing, control the core nice and strong, sink back, arms are out to balance, nice and strong. So we come to that high standing position when we're back in our neutral pose. Drive through the heel of that front foot and just alternate from one leg to the other. And you want to be trying to do 15 to 20 of these. This is a nice freestanding movement that's great for a warm up. Maybe you want to do one more movement in there. So we'll start with a forward lunge. So big step forward, try and get some rotation in this one. So we're going to step forward, hand comes to outside the knee, rotate and just look behind us and back up to standing. And this is great warm up movement. So hand comes and rotate. Keep that knee nice and upright. So sink into that forward lunge, weight comes through the heel of that front foot, hand on the outside of the knee, opposite hand, opposite knee. Rotate the torso, look behind you, and then back up to standing. And you're going to try and do 15 to 20 of these, freestanding, nice and easy. And that should put you in a great place for a warm up. That knee stays right over the heel, don't let it wobble over the place. Back up to standing. So if we get into the strength portion of our barbell workout, first movement we're going to do is the deadlift. So to set up a deadlift, we're going to walk up to the bar, and this is a 20 kg bar with 2 10 kg weights. Sometimes I add a bit more on, but the idea is that I'm lifting a little bit heavier than I normally would if I was doing single leg exercises, so that I can generate way more core strength and lift some heavier weights, so that when I want to crank out bigger watts, I'm able to. Step up to the bar, let that bar kind of come as close to your shins as possible. That is going to be a good starting position. Feet are just wider than shoulder width, same kind of similar position to the squat, just wider than shoulder width. Toes can point out just slightly. Hands come down and reach the bar just outside the ankles, maybe a thumb width apart from the ankles. We are then from here going to sink our bum to the ground. When we sink that bum to the ground, we're going to bring our chest up and then move into the deadlift. Hip comes nice and through and we sink back down. Key features of the deadlift are making sure that our chest stays nice and high, the weight stays nice and close to our body, and we are driving that weight through the heels of our feet. So we're not letting if we come onto our toes, that's because we're leaning too far forward. Try and sit back, That way we're going to engage our hamstrings and our glutes, and then obviously using a bigger weight, we work something called our posterior chain, which is all the muscles down through our back, our glutes, our hamstrings, lower back. And again, if you just think about how that ties into being on a bike and cycling, it's incredibly important. So that's going to be our first movement, is the deadlift. And again, set yourself up, reach down to the bar, bring it close to your shins, sink that bum nice and low, chest comes nice and high, chin stays high, drive up through the heels, come to that full standing position, hips come through, drop back down, weight nice and close to the body, and then back up. So that'll be your first movement. And I probably suggest that you go through between 8 to 12 reps on a barbell deadlift. So the second movement we're going to go into is a barbell good morning, which is again one of my absolute favorite movements. This involves picking up the weight to waist high. From here, we're going to set our feet, make sure they're nice and strong. It's just wider than shoulder width, toes pointed out just slightly. And we're going to pivot at the hips. So we're not trying to bend the knees. There's no bend in this one. Pivot from the hips as we lean forward and the weight comes down. I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we set ourselves up, sink down, chest stays nice and high. So this is going to be our starting position. We're going to set our feet just wider than shoulder width. Slight bend and soft knees, and then the knees don't flex at all. So the knees stay in that position, which is just slightly bent, and we pivot from the hips as we come down, weight comes down, and we come back up to standing. And it's important to stay strong in the shoulders, and then also tense, engage the hamstrings and your bum, your glutes, to drive that weight back up. Bum can just get pushed backwards a little bit as you sink down because you're pivoting from the hips. You notice that the knees don't bend. You are pivoting from the hips, and you are basically using your hamstrings and a lot of the muscles involved in cycling to stand you back up to this neutral position. And again, you probably want to go through 8 to 12 reps and then drop the bar down. Perfect. So the last movement we're going to do in our strength routine is a front squat. If you have a squat rack, it's a lot easier because the weight can start from chest high, because we're going to end up with the weight up on our shoulders. So similar setup, guys. Barbell, set your feet, chest nice and high. Bring that weight up into a nice chest loaded position, front loaded position. Set your feet at this point, shoulder width, toes pointed out, feet just wider than shoulder width. We're going to sink through the heels, separate the knees. Chest stays nice and high, chin stays high. Don't look down. If you look down, your chest will kind of end up collapsing forward. Sink down, separate the knees, drive back up through the middle and the heel of your feet. Sink down, knees come apart, and drive back up. Try and keep your elbows nice and high. That keeps the weight on your shoulders. So nice and simply, drop down, strong, and drive back up. Try and use your glutes, your hamstrings, as much as possible to drive you back up to standing. That's a really good exercise because it's front loaded. Basically means you can sit back and get a bit of a deeper squat. And if you are like me, I struggle a bit with my mobility, so that balance definitely helps me. So those are my 3 key movements when it comes to a big barbell strength workout. Again, probably work through those 3 movements, maybe 3 to 4 times. 8 to 12 reps each time. I find it's often best to kind of go through them sequentially. So deadlift, good mornings, squat, and also just remember that you can do that squat as a back squat if you want, and just whack the bar on the back of your shoulders and do it that way rather than a front loaded squat. I do that because simply this is where I train. So hopefully you found that interesting and it's very useful to you guys. Lifting some bigger weights has definitely helped develop some of the more key muscles that I use on the bike. You might look at me and think, oh, he trains all the time, or he's been in the gym all the time. That's absolutely not the case. I actually very rarely do strength work. I used to do a lot as a kid. Nowadays, I'd much rather spend my time running and cycling. So get in the gym, let me know how you find it, guys, and we will see you guys on the next episode of The What Life.